Let's go.
Welcome to The Insights. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. We will dive into a topic that's becoming more essential in today's workforce: employee financial well-being, and specifically how employers can do more to support it. We will be exploring the critical role that employers play in assisting their employees with financial well-being. From providing educational resources to creating supportive workplace policies, there are many ways employers can actually help their teams to manage financial stress, ultimately boosting productivity and well-being across the board. But before we jump into our discussion, let's set the stage with some insights from Fauzi, who will give us on the research findings by the AKPK Financial Education and Wellbeing Research Centre, FEWRC. Over to you, Fauzi.
Thank you, Shabana. Today's episode is packed with eye-opening insights into the financial well-being of Malaysian working adults, or MWAs. Let's take a step back to the early days of the pandemic in 2020. Back then, our research uncovered that nearly 3 out of 10 MWAs, or about 26%, were experiencing financial stress so intense that it required psychiatric attention. The high cost of living, coupled with heavy financial commitments and debt, were the main drivers of this stress. Among those feeling the pressure, 41% reported that their mental well-being was affected, and strikingly, 65% admitted that financial stress impacted their job performance. Moving forward to the most recent findings, the numbers reveal a concerning reality: MWAs today are financially surviving at best. The majority of 73% fall into the category of not financially well, with 41% simply surviving, 18% in need of attention, and 14% under pressure. Such prolonged financial stress doesn't just affect finances, it can have serious health repercussions. The research also highlights a crucial link between financial well-being and productivity. MWAs with high levels of financial well-being show the strongest job performance with an impressive expectations. In contrast, those with the lowest financial well-being made up the largest share of low-performing employees, with 70% reporting productivity scores at either low or minimal. Finally, we discovered a significant gap in financial education. While 70% of MWAs express interest in attending financial courses, only 48% of companies currently offer these programs. This leaves a 26% gap between supply and demand, a gap that could make all the difference in improving both financial health and productivity. Ladies and gentlemen, these findings make one thing very clear: financial well-being isn't just a personal issue, it's a workplace issue. So, how can we bridge these gaps, support our workforce, and ultimately drive both well-being and productivity? That's exactly what we will be discussing today. That's all for now. Thank you, and back to you, Shabana.
Thank you, Fauzi, for the eye-opening insights to start the discussion. We have a special guest with us for today's episode. Please join me in welcoming Mr. Mafruhin, the head of AKPK Financial Education Wellbeing Research Centre, FEWRC. Mr. Mafruhin brings a wealth of expertise in financial education and has been instrumental in empowering individuals across Malaysia to take control of their financial health. Mr. Mafruhin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Shabana.
Well, Mr. Mafruhin, back to the insights or the findings shared by Fauzi earlier in the episode. It is actually very shocking to find that 73% of Malaysian working adults are actually in the category of not financially well, where out of this 73%, 41% are just simply surviving, 18% are in need of attention financially, and the remaining 14% are under financial pressure It's really devastating to find out about this news, actually, Mr. Mafruhin. So with that, to start with, maybe you would like to share with us more about the landscape of financial well-being among Malaysians now.
Thank you very much, Shabana. So, yeah, I mean, those data that have been shared by Fauzi was being researched by us. So when we look at the data, it's quite, yeah, as you mentioned, it's quite devastating. The landscape of financial well-being among our Malaysian working adults. But I think if I may give some more in structured manner, where when we assess the financial well-being, we always being guided by three dimensions. Number one is basically on the savings part. So apart from what Fauzi has mentioned, if you can see, EPF also has been mentioned quite many times that our Malaysian, particularly in private sectors where they have the EPF is not so enough if you look at the aggregated data. We also can see that when we look at the ability to save, back in 2018 we have done a research and we found that 18% of them, those who've been surveyed, cannot save any cents within the past 6 months. And in 2021 we found a report published by the Ringgit Plus, where they found that 21% of Malaysian are unable to do saving. So from 18 to 21%, it's still that range that is, the numbers is not so promising. There are still a portion of individuals who cannot do savings. There can be multiple factors of that. So that is basically the first dimension. The second dimension of financial well-being is, the ability to make ends meet. Overall, maybe we can say that Malaysian, there is still a room for improvement on the ability of making their end meets. And in our survey back in 2018, we found that 28% need to borrow to buy essentials. So this numbers has been mentioned quite many times, and it's still something that we need to be wary of. And we look at those who have intention to borrow to buy essential. 21% of them is actually relying on the non-bank institution. So non-bank institution, that is also worrying, where the sources of the credit might getting from non-registered or informal lenders and whatnot. So that is basically need to be given an attention. And when we look at another dimension where financial resilience is also a concern, where Bank Negara have done a survey on the financial capability and inclusion, then they found that 47% of those respondents actually don't have 1,000 ringgit in case of emergency. So when we look at this combination of three dimensions, the savings part and also the low ability to make ends meet, and also the financial resilience, we can say that there is a lot of things that we need to do with regards to the landscape of financial well-being of Malaysian.
Yes, Encik Mafruhin, as you mentioned, it's very important to highlight on savings, making ends meet, and also financial resilience. All of these are important criteria in ensuring a financial well-being strength in a person, right? But at the same time, I also believe that employers, Encik Mafruhin, plays a very important role in ensuring how their employees can actually becoming someone who is financially resilient. But at the same time, we also got to know that there is actually a gap between the understanding of financial well-being program in regard to both employers and employees.
Exactly.
And with that, Encik Mafruhin, maybe you would like to answer me. Do you believe there is actually a resistance among employers to conduct financial well-being program for their employees? And if yes, why is it that these employers are very resistant in regard to conducting various financial well-being programs for their employees?
Shabana, thanks for the questions. I think first of all, before I answer these questions, I would like to give our heartfelt gratitude to those organizations who have done and organized financial well-being program for their employees. We in AKPK, we have done quite many programs. Employers call out for us to give talks and program and whatnot. But yes, certainly there are some employers who are actually, maybe they are not, there are several reasons why. So from our observations, we can see that number one, of course, when it comes to the employee training programs, for example, because financial wellbeing program, we cannot run away from, more or less we need to conduct program or training, right? So training on employees need investments, right? So
Financial
maybe
investments,
financial
yeah.
investment. So the first one, maybe cost concern by the employers, and we can see that the report by the PwC 2023 Employee Financial Wellness Survey, they said that over 52% of CEOs said that they begin to cut costs in the investment when it comes to employee benefits, and that's the first thing that they can cut is, okay, we cut for the training part. So that is number one that we can see, perhaps the cost concern from the employers. Number two, perhaps the management of the companies, organizations, the big organization might have bigger, higher awareness, and the smaller companies may have a little bit lower awareness on the importance of the employee financial well-being at their workplace. Maybe this is actually not their priority at that particular moment, and after that, the perception of responsibility also might come into the picture, where the employers might think that, financial well-being of my employees, is it something to do with my responsibility to look into it? So there is a little bit gap in terms of the understanding of their role as an employer, and maybe I would like to also touch on the privacy concerns, and finance is always a taboo to talk within workplace. So there is no culture of discussing about financial well-being in the workplace, where the superior and the subordinates not really talking about finance matters, and that's why maybe perhaps the employers not really think that, finance is something that we don't need to touch, something like that. And last but not least, maybe perhaps our observation, when we go and engage the employers, we can see that there are certain employers that admitted that they have a very limited experience and knowledge about the financial management. So I think financial management is quite some things that everyone experience managing money, right? So when you go to the work, as an employer, you don't think, if you think that you don't have experience or expertise to talk about the financial management to your employees, so that might hinder. I don't know how to do it. So those are basically possible reasons why employers, I would not say hesitance, but I think there are multiple reasons that leads to the gap that we discussed about. There is a gap between employees wants a financial program, but employers
do not find it important.
Yes, and maybe it's not their priority as yet. So perhaps that's possibly the reason.
So the importance of financial education, highlighting to them the importance of understanding financial resilience, financial understanding is not just towards employees here, Encik Mafruhin, but also has to be done towards the employers.
Exactly.
Right?
That is actually could be the appropriate channel where we can reach out to 18 million labour force in Malaysia. So this is quite huge number of people.
That's very true. And at the same time, to ensure that this financial well-being of the Malaysian working adults are addressed, unfortunately, all of the areas that you've mentioned needs to be tackled first.
Exactly.
Right?
Absolutely. You're very right.
Thank you very much. We will now be going for a short break. More information on financial resilience right after this. Don't go away.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to The Insights. There is always a connection between financial and mental well-being. However, I believe there is more to it than just that. With that, Encik Mafruhin, how do we actually ensure that this financial well-being program could also enhance the overall well-being of individuals?
Yeah, spot on when we mentioned about there is a very, very heavy and significant association between financial and mental.
Yes.
Because if you have a financially not well, it will easily jeopardize your states of mental well-being. Nowadays, mental well-being has been discussed spreadly. Many people talk about, stress and whatnot, and we can see that financial situation is one of the factors
that leads to that, right?
Stress and whatnot. So, however, the financial is not only associated into mental well-being only, but it also can affect to the overall state of well-being. So what we're trying to do in AKPK when we provide financial education, we have to ensure that we touch a multiple dimensions of well-being. Where, of course, first thing we need to look at the financial well-being. So we give the financial management education and how best can you manage your money so that you are not having a financial difficulty situation in the future, of course. Then secondly, we look at the physical well-being as well, because to be healthy and I mean, health is expensive. Healthy need to be considered when you have money. Then you have to look at your physical well-being so that you are not incur more money in the future. Yeah, because if you're not keeping yourself healthy, most probably you will need to fork out more money to your
hospital
medication,
bills, medical
hospital bills, and
yes,
whatnot. So we need to put that element when we give the financial education, Shabana. So we need to give them the awareness where you need to not only managing your money, you need to also managing your health so that you can mitigate the risk of forking out more money in the future. That's number 2, the physical well-being. Number 3 is actually the of course the mental and emotional well-being. As we mentioned, we need to give understanding how best your savings can be a tools for you to be able to cope with the financial stress. When we look at the pandemic in 2020, when we did research on financial stress, there is one report, Money and Mental Wellbeing, during that particular year, 2020, when we produced that report, we can see that obviously, those who have savings have a different level of coping ability to financial stress. Of course, that is quite layman, but sometimes when we give when we give financial education, we need to emphasize on these particular elements where you have to save so that you have the coping ability towards the financial stress in the future, in the event of any financial crisis or financial difficulties that you may face in the future. Then we also want to inculcate about the social well-being as well. So social well-being, for example, when you in a family institutions, you have a financial difficulties. For example, me as a male or as a husband, father in a family, when you have financial difficulties, of course it will disrupt your life, and sometimes to a certain extent it can reflect to your family institutions, where people might not understand whether you have financial difficulties or not. But when you have financial difficulties, it will reflect the relationship with your family members. That is basically need to be emphasized during the financial education, and of course, spiritual well-being need to also being touched a bit during the financial education. Intellectual well-being. Intellectual well-being means, for example, I think when people said about financial well-being, increase wages, increase salary, and whatnot, right? So, but as you as an individual, what you need to do is actually to increase your intellectual level so that you can have a more idea on how to make more money.
More money, yes.
You don't just need to just whinge about, I have a low salary and whatnot, but there is no efforts for you to increase.
Yeah, how do you put in into the right investments, etc.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And last but not least, of course, the environmental well-being. The environmental well-being, I think this is quite new, and it's worth to start talking now, because I think now, approaching to the end of the year, flood and whatnot. Of course, there is natural disaster, but when we give financial education, we need to also talk about how best can we mitigate the risk of natural disaster. For example, if you take insurance, you might need to consider the perils elements of the insurance, so that when your car have damage due to the flood and whatnot, at least you have protection and mitigation about the car. So that is basically to answer your question on how best can we ensure the financial education can affect the overall state of well-being of individual. We in AKPK have started to go beyond financial education, because it can reflect your life. So that is basically how we ensure the effectiveness of financial well-being program.
So basically, Encik Mafruhin, there is a positive connection between a financial well-being and also with other aspects of human being. Yeah, with good financial well-being, this leads to good health, good mental, good spiritual,
good society.
Yes, exactly. So all of these are positively linked in a way. And talking about all of this and also the researchers that you've mentioned, I believe that AKPK has done a lot of research on financial well-being, has done a lot of programs on financial well-being. Maybe you can also highlight to us or share with us the effectiveness of the program to the Malaysians.
We have conducted many programs, many financial education programs, but I would like to highlight perhaps 3 examples. First one is actually looking into the, financial education that we have conducted with FGV, for the Global Ventures, with 831 participants. There is element of data analytics in the financial education, where we have collected data prior to the program, and then after we conduct the program, we give intervention, we give financial education, and the post-program, we will collect another data. We ask again the participants whether or not you have improved after the program. And yet, yes, the data tells us there is improvement, and we can see the effectiveness of our program. For this particular example, FGV, and I also would like to thank FGV for being a proactive employers and providing a financial education program for the employees. And we found that when we look at the assessment, how effective are we in providing financial education program? First, we look at the overall financial knowledge. Of course, we cannot run away from looking at the self-efficacy, the money management and stuff. Then we can see that the improved score from pre and post is basically positive 11%. And we look at the difference, before the program, the score is 5.99, and post program we can see that the score increased to 6.69. So the difference is actually 11%. So we are not looking into only the knowledge. We also assess to a certain extent on the behavior. The mistake when people go and buy house, in particular, for example, but house is actually quite huge money, right? So you need to have a loan. And the one thing that people might always overlook is you might be eligible for loan, but you are not affordable to pay
it. Exactly.
But eligible and affordable is two different things. You might be eligible, but you are not affordable. So that is actually the second examples. I want to go to the last example, but not least. We have done a program with the Food Panda, and this is also a collaboration with Bank Simpanan Nasional, where we provide a program, and we can see a success of 99 participants from the 102 riders. They end up opening a savings account in the bank and
Oh, that's
start
nice
savings.
to hear. Yeah.
So I think that is a quite huge achievement, and that is actually to show that when we provide financial education need to be impactful that can turn into a good behavior, and opening a savings account and start to save is actually achievement.
At the same time, Encik Mahfuz, maybe you can highlight to us a little bit on the book published by AKPK itself that's on the navigating employees' financial well-being at the workplace. What are the things that employees can actually learn from the book? What are the advantages? What are the highlights of the book? Maybe you can just elaborate to us a little bit on that particular book.
Yeah, I think this is the book that we have produced in 2024, where we assess the level of financial well-being of Malaysian working adults, and there is a quite number of insights that can be used by the employers, because this is really to address the issues of there is lack of understanding of the association between financial well-being and productivity has been disclosed and discussed in these particular reports, and we are in the midst of disseminating the reports to all our stakeholders, and we try to get their feedback and whatnot, and maybe we can I have one highlight to talk about this particular report, but I think maybe we can save it at the last round.
Yes, it's true.
I'm happy to share the
Yes, I
highlight of the
completely
reports.
agree with you, Encik Mahfuhin, that actually, with a proper financial well-being program being placed in an organization, it will somehow also, like you mentioned, it leads to the fact that a person will be less stressed and less depression, no depression, all of this. And all of this will somehow impact positively to the organization when the employees are able to perform well, right? Thank you very much, Encik Mahfuhin, for your very insightful information.
You're welcome.
All right, we will now show you a video where the Malaysian Employers Federation have provided their review about the report published by AKPK FEWRC and what should be done by the employers with regard to their employees' financial well-being. Stay tuned.
The report on 9 to 5, navigating financial well-being at the workplace, is, I think, very important and very impressive, I would say. I had a look at the report, and basically, of course, it is evidence-based kind of findings based on the actual survey. It is not something just an opinion, but based on the feedback given by 900 employees, 300 employers. In that sense, of course, yes, anybody reading the report would be able to know what is the actual situation happening there at workplaces, especially when we talk about financial well-being of employees. And this report is critical in the sense that it analyzes the financial well-being and try to correlate it with productivity, try to correlate it with attrition rate, and also try to correlate it with the cost of hiring of employees in the event they are actually leaving the company because they are not happy, because they have issues with their financial well-being. So in that sense, yes, MEF is very much supportive of this idea, trying to give financial literacy to the employees, because at the end of the day, it actually shows that with financial well-being, it can address a lot of issues, especially when you talk about the current issue on mental well-being, things like that, because mental well-being becoming a very critical issue. It came up to the second serious disease in the Malaysian context of late, and it's important for employers to support that kind of initiative. And as far as MEF is concerned, yes, actually we had discussed this matter with AKPK itself and had offered the sessions that we have with our employers on a monthly basis around the region for AKPK to actually come in and brief about issues on financial well-being and financial literacy, especially among employees. So as far as the framework provided by this 9 to 5 navigating financial well-being of employee at the workplace, I think the framework is very practical in the sense that it provides step-by-step procedure under which the financial well-being at the workplace can be further examined. in the sense that, of course, you provide for the diagnosis to be done first among the company. Possibly this can be done at the board level, at the management level. Then it go down to the methodology and also the implementation stage itself. Yeah? Of course, in the implementation part, it's important for the employee to give the proper feedback to the research done. And in that aspect, it is very important actually to communicate with the stakeholders in the company as to the result of the research itself and provide a framework to actually address the issue. And what is important is that at the end of the day, you are trying to monitor what is happening at the company as far as the employee financial well-being is concerned. And in that sense, I would say employees that need to be assisted can always talk back to the company, talk back to the management, and management can, of course, refer these issues to AKPK itself. In that sense, it provides a framework where the company can actually address the issues of financial well-being at the workplace. And that, I think, is a critical area because when we talk about financial issues, it is always a taboo kind of thing. And employees don't want to talk to other people. They don't want to communicate to the company about the issues, things like that, for being worried that this may be taken into account when they do the assessment, things like that. But I would say that to open up a communication channel on these kind of issues would be able to address the stresses that the employee had gone through. And in that sense, once the stresses are being addressed, then the employee can be, I would say, at the end of the day, having a more positive attitude towards work. And that is where it's important that at the end of the day, when you are positive about the workplace, positive about your work, then you can be more productive in that sense. And of course, the company at the end of the day, of course, will benefit also from there, because if you have a productive and loyal employee, then you can go on and plan to actually, go better in terms of your performance and in terms of your productivity and also in terms of your competitiveness. Of course, you know that now the marketplace is very, very competitive. Yes, AKPK is doing a very good service to the public, and this should be perhaps make it, well known, make the awareness raising better. And of course, MEF is prepared to assist AKPK to actually, make their presence felt, especially among the employers.
Let's go. Let's go.
Welcome back to The Insights. Well, Encik Mafuhin, we have already discussed about the importance of how employers should play an essential role in ensuring their employees to be financially resilient. So how AKPK could help employers in providing holistic and impactful financial education well-being program for their employees?
Right, thank you, Shabana. I think to answer the questions, I would like to also relate back to the first round that we discussed about, why employers don't want to, or maybe they don't have any idea on how to conduct employee financial well-being program.
Or they don't see the importance of it, Encik Mafuhin.
Yeah. So I would like to, highlight what we have reports in this particular report, where we have provided a simple framework where we call it employee financial well-being framework. That need to be started with the discussion about employee financial well-being at the management level, or perhaps to a certain extent escalate to even board meeting. The board and also the management team have to start discussing about employees' financial well-being in the management meeting. That is very important. That is actually what we call the value creation within the organization. So
it has to start from the board level,
from the top, the corporate level. And the reason why we produce this report is actually to facilitate to the senior management team to look at the reports and try to understand what are the insights that could be discussed within the management team members during the management meeting. For example, this report actually discussed about the importance of the financial well-being and the productivity, national adults aggregatedly at the surviving at best 70% are actually surviving, and some percentage of them actually struggle and whatnot. We need to create a discussion about that within the management team, and also at the corporate level, at the board meeting as well. Then when these have been established within the organizations, we also provide steps on how organizations could embark in the financial wellbeing program, where I think the most critical unit or sections that need to look into it is basically the HR. HR is no longer like a traditional HR where just looking into the recruitment, salary and whatnot. HR needs to play a role as a business partner. They need to think on how to enhance companies' profitability by looking from the perspective of employees. So what HR can do first is actually to diagnose the landscape of the employee financial well-being. So how they can do? AKPK FEWRC, we as a research center, we have the tools to measure employee financial well-being, and we can give the tools to the organizations, and we can collect the data, and we can help to analyze. Then we can coming up with the reports to detail out what is the landscape of financial well-being of your employees in your organizations. I give you an example of what we did in one of the organizations where we provided that survey tools. Then we collect the data, and we can be able to, among more than 2,000 employees that they have, we can categorize into 3 categories. Number 1, basic. Number 2, intermediate. And number 3, advanced. So what does this means? The basic is actually maybe perhaps the income group, and also the financial well-being and the financial health score is at the low range. So this particular group, what we need to teach them, of course, we need to teach them on how to somehow recalibrate and manage your money so that you are not, because they are vulnerable. So they need to be assisted on how to manage their money well so that they are not being trapped into the financial difficulties.
At this point of time, Mr. Mafuhin, do the organizations out there, are they aware of these tools offered by AKPK?
Yeah, I mean, some aware, some not. So that's why we try to tell and
continuing to raise the awareness, yeah?
Exactly. So once they know that we can come to their organization and help them to diagnose, so we can give a better solutions. After we diagnose, we can do the design of the program. Like I mentioned just now, the basic, we give how to manage their cash flow. The intermediate, maybe we need to a little bit more on how to increase savings. And for those advanced, we can tell them on how to manage your wealth.
Yes.
Right? So it's not like, okay, come to our place and talk about financial management. 1 hour, 2 hour might not be effective.
This is somehow, it's more tailor-made according to the needs of this employees of that particular organization.
Exactly.
Yes, yeah.
And the third thing is, finance is a taboo. In our culture, we don't talk finance with our bosses. We are not talk about financial matters to our HR. And sometimes when HR provided financial education program, there is also hesitancy by the employees to take up the program. So, I mean, there is also some gaps there.
Yes, that's why it has to come from the top, right?
Top,
exactly,
yes.
yeah.
And there is communication is very important. The third thing is actually to communicate to the employees so that they can convince that, my data is actually protected. People don't talk about my personal financial matters. I will not be offended with this particular program. Company or organization is actually trying to help me financially. So that communication needs to be done very, very effectively.
Yes.
So last but not least, when we have conducted this program, what we need to do is basically to monitor, evaluate, and evolve. So,
Yes.
Because there is no way that we can do one program, oh, it's effective.
Yes.
So we need to somehow continuously enhance the program. So this is like a vicious cycle. You know,
Yes.
maybe the first year we can do a pilot, then after that we can have a more longitudinal kind of financial well-being program. So that is basically the gist of recommendation that we put in this
particular
report.
book. Yes, yeah.
We started by emphasizing on the gaps and whatnot. Then after that we come to the recommendation on how to do. So hopefully to those who watch this episode, they can spread the awareness that AKPK is able to help employers, and yeah, we are more than happy to connect with all the employers to reach out to the 18 million labour force in Malaysia.
Yes, that's very true, Encik Mafuhin. I also strongly believe that our society has to shy away from the financial taboo,
Exactly.
right? And they must understand that the organizations that they are in are actually trying their best to help them to improve their financial well-being, which will also ultimately improve their overall well-being as a human being,
Yes.
right? Thank you very much, Encik Mafuhin, for today. A
You're
lot
welcome.
of very insightful information on financial knowledge. And ladies and gentlemen, that actually brings us to the end of today's program. To reach more Malaysians with the tools and knowledge they need, it's essential to engage with employees directly in the workplace. Employers have a unique opportunity and responsibility to champion financial education in their organization. After all, when employees are financially empowered, they are more productive, resilient, and innovative. This not only strengthens their own financial stability, but also contributes to a more robust and resilient economy for everyone. Together, we are working toward a future where economic growth is sustainable and living standards are raised for all. Thank you for tuning in, and let's keep building a brighter future.
Let's go. Let's